Hi everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Anonaholics Anonymous. This week, I'm going to be answering the question, why can't addicts just stop using their addictive substance or stop their addictive behaviors? An addiction is actually a disease, and the disease has three parts. The parts are the physical aspects, the mental aspect of the disease, and also the spiritual part of the disease. And by the end, I hope you have a better understanding of what really makes an addiction so hard to break. So with that, let's start with the physical component of addiction. As far as addicts go, they all have one thing in common, and that's that once they start using their addictive substance or acting out in their particular behavior, they can't stop no matter how great their wish is to be able to stop. They also can't start acting out in their addiction without developing a physical compulsion to do it more. This book suggests that the reason that they develop this physical compulsion to keep doing it, where people who are not addicted don't, is because addicted people have a sort of allergy to whatever the behavior is that they're addicted to. So once they start doing it, the allergic reaction sets in and they feel like they have to keep doing it. This is one of my favorite quotes from this book regarding the physical aspect of addiction. Men and women act out in their addictions essentially because they like the effect produced by the addiction. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it's injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate from the true and the false. And what is the effect that they're looking for? Well, it's faking reality. So it's covering up different feelings that someone might be having. In my experience, recovering from addictive behaviors for a long time, I wasn't even able to identify the feelings that I was having. When you take in some sort of really powerful addictive behavior that produces this effect, it can just wash all that out, and it can give the effect that your life isn't the way that it really is. So you might wonder how a physical compulsion that strong could be removed. The physical component ends up being removed because of a huge psychic change that we have and a spiritual awakening as a result of doing the rest of the steps. So now that we've talked about the physical component of the disease, we're going to talk about the mental part of the disease. These observations would be pointless if anonaholics never took the first addictive behavior, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the anonaholic centers in his mind rather than in his or her body. If you ask him why he started on that last spree, sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc an acting out behavior or spree creates. They sound like the philosophy of the man who, having a headache, beats himself on the head with a hammer so that he can't feel the ache. If you draw this fallacious reasoning to the attention of an anonaholic, he will laugh it off or become irritated and refuse to talk. Once in a while, he may tell the truth. And the truth, strange to say it, usually is that he has no more idea why he took that first addictive behavior than you have. In their hearts, they really do not know why they do it. There is the obsession that somehow, someday, they will beat the game, but they often suspect that they're down for the count. There is a complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove. Despite all we can say, many who are real anonaholics are not going to believe that they're in that class. By every form of self-deception and experimentation, they will try to prove themselves exceptions to the rule, therefore non-anonaholic. I think that this really shows how the problem centers in the brain. Now we've talked about the physical compulsion, the mental obsession, and now here's the third part of the disease, which is the spiritual malady. If a mere code of morals or a better philosophy of life were sufficient to overcome anonaholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. But we found that such codes and philosophies did not save us, no matter how much we tried. We could wish to be moral, we could wish to be philosophically comforted, in fact, we could will these things with all our might, but the needed power wasn't there. Our human resources were not sufficient. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. In my experience, the biggest problem of addiction is the fears underlying it, and when someone first goes into recovery, they don't even know that they have all these fears, but it's been revealed to me that there are hundreds and hundreds of fears that are driving the addiction, and without these fears, there wouldn't really be a need to fake reality by acting out in any way. My friend told me this metaphor once for how addiction works. The good person that someone is locked in the trunk of a car, and they're stuck. And all of their fears are in the driver's seat of the car, driving them around to all of the different places that it wants to go. And that is why they feel the need to act out, because being controlled by fears and having so many fears running rampant through your system is really a horrible way to live. And most people don't recognize it for what it is, so that's why they try to cover it up. The really good news in all of this is that there is a solution, there is recovery, and there is hope. And that's why the steps are so important. They're like a key to unlocking those fears in the front seat of the car. Most people will find that going through recovery will give them a new presence of protection, acceptance, and security. And those are some things that really help with the process. Also say hello to my beautiful kitty cat, Citrine. Mwah. I'll catch you next time.